Okay, I want to try to explain the position that I've been roughly arguing for across many videos. It is also going to be in the book that's coming out here at Purdue University in September called Sources of Significance. I'll put a link to that. It's not available yet, but I do want to get people interested in that. And I think it's also, you can get some of the ideas from a good number of the playlists that I'll also post down in the link below. I think part of the difficulty that I've had is that I haven't really felt, that I've been unable to find a community in either the theist or the atheistic camps, I guess. I'm, and it comes from a lot of it from looking at the work of the Stoics, of Ernest Becker and Hans Jonas. I would say those three really together they generate, I guess, a kind of view or a perspective that isn't easily amenable to either contemporary naturalistic atheism or to, I guess, the kind of uh, theistic, certainly not the dogmatic religious folks. So I think part of the task is, I've said before, and I want to see if I can just lay this out. Please, people, try. I don't know how to say it, and I only get this short little video to do this here. But the notion here is that somehow along the way in history there emerged an animal who was able, and it happened in a thrown way. It sort of just emerged, and in that emerging, it felt life itself to be a kind of gift beyond any full repayment. That life, the life itself, this self-awareness encumbered and especially self-awareness given conditions of capricious scarcity and abundance. When scarcity and abundance are completely beyond your control, it really does feel an amazing, everything feels to be an amazing gift to you. The more that it gets to be under your control, I guess, the more we can construct a sense of being of our own making. It makes for the conditions of lack of gratitude or sort of indignation. At any rate, I think the issue here is that the human being, as we know it today, and it's at least, I don't know how many, 100,000 years old. We're not sure how long, but for at least 100,000 years old, several 100,000 years old, there, as long as we can find graves, rituals of sacrifice, the markings of humanity, somehow there was a recognition of a gift beyond all repayment. And when I say that, I mean that the best one can do is partially repay to others in this world. I think it's kind of Derrida's, Derrida's gift of death. I think I've blurbed this here before, but if you look at Derrida's work and Cal Schrag's work on God is otherwise in being, that's sort of where they're moving, this question of the gift character. And so the problems then become this, that in response to this gift beyond capacity to repay it, there traditionally has cropped up a kind of dogmatic, religious, political sort of social political organizing that takes advantage of it, of this sort of need to exonerate the guilt of being, to expiate the guilt of being human, and they give lies and fantasies about happily ever afters, about judgments, about eternal damnations, about souls, and all of this kind of stuff. I think the religious dogma that takes advantage of the yearning for human meaning, that is the expiating of the guilt of being human, right? I think that is very unfortunate, and it's a problem. Especially the way it has become a source of tyranny around the world and oppression against certain peoples and religious wars across the globe. But I think there's also a kind of scientific naturalism that, again, a sort of reductive atheism that is trying to hide from the gift character in a different way. It makes it seem as if there isn't genuinely a mystery of, I don't know, a self-aware cosmos, that somehow the cosmos itself is aware. And when I say that, I don't mean all of the cosmos is aware of itself. No, what's so interesting is this bubble that was called world that emerged somewhere in history. It's not animal conscious. Like, I don't think animals feel the guilt character. I thought I would share this here too. This is a little passage from Nietzsche's Unfashionable Observations, and it's from his Utility and Liability of a History for Life. And this is the opening paragraph of section 1. This is what Nietzsche writes. He says, "Observe the herd as it grazes past you. It cannot distinguish yesterday from today, leaps about, eats, sleeps, digests, leaps some more, and carries on like this from morning to night and from day to day, tethered by the short leash of its pleasures and displeasures to the stake of the moment. And thus it is neither melancholy nor bored. It is hard on the human being to observe this, because he boasts about his superiority of his humanity over animals, and yet looks enviously upon their happiness. For the one and only thing that he desires is to live like an animal, neither bored nor in pain, yet he desires this in vain, because he does not desire it in the same way as does the animal. The human being might ask the animal, 'Why do you just look at me like that instead of telling me about your happiness?' The animal wanted to answer, 'Because I always immediately forgot what I wanted to say,' but it had already forgotten this answer and hence said nothing, so that the human being was left to wonder." This notion of what is the wonder that is the human world, I think there is something, and I think it's a trans-historical phenomena. I think that selfhood it's embodied, to be sure. It includes neuronal firing states, to be sure. It includes time, and it includes language, and it includes history. It includes all of these different dimensions. We can't just isolate it to one of those, although each one of those provides just an inexhaustible depth that we could analyze. I think part of the problem is that to simply suggest that humans are animals isn't a denial. I don't think anyone wants to deny, or I certainly don't want to deny, evolutionary biology. I want to make room for an evolutionary biology that is willing to ask the question of, what does it mean for nature to have made possible a being that could make promises to itself and then could open to its own finitude? What does that mean? Is the opening to one's own finitude and the fact that one is a finite, limited being who will die, and yet know that despite its own finitude, that it's related to everything else. I mean, is that itself? Does it encumber a kind of guilt that needs to be recognized? I think that it does. I think that meaning, human meaning, comes as a response to that. And when we give to others, when we create objects of beauty, when we do art, the reason that humanity blooms with art and music and dance and all of those things that we take to be artistic and I guess part of the truly human spirit, I think they give the meaning that they do because they're a response to that that sense of world. Again, humans are more than just animals in an environment. We're in a world, and that world is socio-historical. It's a world that's symbolic and metaphoric. It's a world that um, it's more than again, this sort of reductivism that I think we see in a kind of scientistic individualism. I don't think it's the robust, serious scientists who bring this kind of individualism. I think it's a certain kind of scientific individualism that aligns with consumer capitalism. And I think the other problem is that all the dogmatic religious folks who take advantage of human need to give to the world because of this sort of recognition of guilt. But I don't think there's any way out of it. I think you can either cover it over or recognize it. The task is to find a position that's neither in the dogmatic religion nor in a totally desacralized world. Okay, well, thanks.